What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hey, welcome to the Lead Counsel Podcast. This is your host, Tom Tona. I'm here with Juliet. What's going on, Jules?
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
We got a special guest today, Jules. This is part 2 of the Human Resources for Law Firm series that we're putting together. And we have our guest from the last Human Resources episode, our Human Resources person, Alesha. What's going on, Alesha? How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for today's episode because last time we covered recruiting, right? And the essence of recruiting and all the things that go into it. And that's where, if people focus on it at all, that's probably the main focus of most businesses, right? So for law firms, I know specifically most people at the small to mid-sized law firms do not focus on what we're going to talk about today. But I do feel like it's an important topic, all right? Today's topic is onboarding. And I'm excited because Alesha's really helped us level up our game. And so let me just give you a little backstory. Can I share a backstory with you? All right, I'm going to tell you a secret. I think you know it, Alesha, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Janira is the integrator. For anybody that's listening, in EOS parlance, Janira is my integrator. She's my right hand, been my right hand for like 20 years. Janira and I considered ourselves pretty savvy at recruiting. We didn't have anything to compare it to, but we considered ourselves very good at recruiting. We had a great team and we were building a great team. And it wasn't until we were running an ad and for HR, where we said, oh, we need an HR person. We probably needed an HR person 10 hires ago. I think when do you think, let me just take a quick digress for a second. Alesha, when do you think companies should have an HR person?
When a company is struggling with their time. I think that's the biggest thing, because recruiting, onboarding, training, that takes a lot of time. And if that part is suffering, that's a telltale sign that you need an HR person.
That's an excellent observation. And I would actually say the other telltale sign, there's a bunch of telltale signs, right, that will indicate you should be doing it. But I can just give you rules of thumb that I've learned over the years. And it was always stress related. So I had no idea that I needed an office manager. I was up to about 10 employees at the time. And I was like, why is my stress so high? And somebody I know pointed me to a podcast or a webinar that said, when you reach 7 reports, you need an office manager so that they're reporting to the office manager reports to you. That's the idea. And that's why my stress was so high. So then I put in an office manager, and then I kept hiring and we kept growing. And we got up to like, how many people were here when you started? 20, 25?
About 20, I want to say.
20 people. And again, my stress was super high as the owner of the firm. And Janira's stress was really high, my integrator, because she's not only charged with running all of operations, she was handling all of HR and every other component of the business, right? She was sitting in multiple different silos at that point. And the epiphany I had was we had 4 key hires to make. And I was like, we don't have time. We can barely get to the reviews that we have right now. Hence, we ran the ad for you. So that's just a rule of thumb is I think when you're past 15 team members, start thinking about an HR generalist. That's what you do. That was your background, with an emphasis on recruiting, which was amazing because you do this magical thing on recruiting. But here's my story time with regard to onboarding. I was trying to figure out why we had a failure rate within 90 days that seemed unacceptable to me. We knew we were hiring good people, but we didn't really have onboarding system or process. And I was like, oh, I know why. I suck at this. And I didn't like doing it. Like, I don't like training at all. It's not my favorite thing. I don't like hand-holding people. So, true confession, the day before you're going to start, we start thinking about onboarding you. And I'm like, oh my God, what?
I think I knew this. I think you guys told me.
Yeah, but I was like, I'm embarrassed to admit it because I had to pull that stuff together. We spent 8 hours focused on at least making it seem like we had our stuff together, right? And I think we did a pretty decent job.
You guys did a great job. I felt very confident stepping into my role.
Which is amazing because it was built over 8 hours the day before. But so I I paid for a couple of resource guides early in the morning the day before. And I was like, oh my God, there's a whole science to onboarding, right? And we did pretty good. We sketched out a skeleton of what it could look like, which you're going to go into. But you really took it and ran with it. And it's similar to what you did on the recruiting side for us, where we had a system. You made it 100 times better. I don't know. I still don't know what you do that you could fill 4 jobs with key hires and they're all really strong hires. I don't even know how you attract the talent. I don't know what you're doing with the ads that you put up, but man, like you got the magic touch when it comes to human resources.
Do you want to just briefly explain what onboarding is, especially in an office setting?
So onboarding is obviously for any new team members. It's to pretty much initiate them and help them learn about the organization, show them its structure, the culture, the vision, the mission of the firm, as well as its values. And it kind of sets them up. It's pretty much to set them up for success.
And I will tell you that since we started doing it with you, we have had zero turnover in the onboarding period that we call the first 90 to 180 days. And it's been awesome, right? Because people bond with the team faster and they're able to hit the ground running. So I really want to take as much time as we need to delve into this because I don't think that law firms and a lot of leaders even understand what it looks like. So you hire somebody and you say, okay, you got a start date. Some people, it's like 2 weeks off, right? So 2 weeks from September 1st, somebody's supposed to start September 15th. What are you doing as the HR person behind the scenes to get that person ready for day one?
Yeah. So prior to that, it's important to break down the job description. From the job description, you're able to create a training checklist that glues it all together, what the person is going to be doing in their role. So creating a checklist really helps the person integrate into the company, the firm, the way the company does things. So here at TonaLaw, we obviously set up files differently. We have a separate case timeline. All firms have one, but we have one of our own. So it's important to break that down into a checklist. That way it's easier for the person, the new team member, to integrate into the system easier.
Right. And what's important about what you just said, listen, spot on. This is exactly what I was hoping to cover. How many law firms that are listening to this give this type of information to a paralegal, a legal assistant, or even an attorney when they start? Right? People are not plug and play. So I think the assumption is I hire an experienced attorney. We hire a lot of experienced attorneys and paralegals, 10 years, 15 years of experience. But you want them to do it the TonaLaw way.
Right.
And the only thing that ensures uniformity in quality and process is a process, right? Meaning John Morgan, Morgan & Morgan, famous personal injury law firm, and everybody listening knows them, says you want your law firm to run like McDonald's. And what that means is you go to McDonald's to get a cheeseburger. Every McDonald's, that cheeseburger tastes the same. There's zero reason why in our firm anybody would be working a personal injury case or a no-fault collection case or a breach of contract case differently from one case to the other based upon the attorney and paralegal that are handling it. A lot of firms do not systematize this stuff, and yet they get frustrated. Oh, you didn't do it the way I wanted it done. But people can't read your mind, and it's not fair, right? So, yeah, that's excellent. Is having the training checklist is initial preparation stage for you, right? So tell us a little bit more, like what else do you start doing at that point?
Yeah. So prior to their first day, obviously the fun stuff, you're setting up their workstation.
Fun for you. You love this stuff.
The aesthetic stuff. And then Jules, our marketing coordinator, she puts together a company swag bag.
What's in that bag? What's in that bag? Tell everybody. Just give them like a list.
So it's a little gift for everybody that starts. And first, it starts off with a TonaLaw tote bag. So we have tons of those tote bags. Love them. And I usually throw in a t-shirt, sweatshirts, hats. Everybody gets pens, chapsticks, a lunchbox, the hand sanitizers, which are Tom's favorite.
Because I'm a germaphobe.
He comes into my office and steals them like 5 at a time. They're actually perfect. If any company out there is listening, get the credit card hand sanitizers. They're a hit. And we just throw all of that together and leave it on their desk just so they have a bunch of welcoming gifts. And, they have some TonaLaw swag with them now. They're really part of the team.
So the whole purpose behind the swag bag is to make people feel at ease when they walk in. It's hard showing up here at 7:50 the first day of work. You don't know what you're going to get. You're on nerves. You know how you have that agita. So we want people at ease. Make this feel like home for people, right? So, yeah, I think that that's awesome. And I love that we've done it. We've always done it. And I don't even have to ask. I know that swag bag's on every desk when we have people that start. But before they start, don't we send out an email at some point?
We do. So it's usually a welcome email, just obviously expressing the excitement for them to come join the firm. And then we also give access to the firm's handbook, which has the dress codes, all the policies, codes of conduct. And there's also a section on our portal that talks about how to be successful here at TonaLaw, which I think is really, honestly, really great for someone to read when joining a firm because it sets up an expectation. It shows them, gives them the basics of what they should be doing, how they'll integrate into the firm in a better way.
And the TonaLaw portal, just giving everybody access to that, I think is such a great part of the onboarding process, just because if they have any questions about the way the firm runs or any questions about just general stuff, like you said, the dress code or attendance policy, things like that, you can find everything in that portal. So that's definitely one of the things that Tom and Jay hit out of the ballpark.
Yeah. So I do want to say a few things, I guess, for anyone listening wants to write this down. A few
tidbits.
Yeah, a few tidbits from the article for how to be successful at TonaLaw are embracing the culture, the core values, participating in any of the firm initiatives, and also embracing the systems that we create.
So what Alesha's referring to is we have our TonaLaw portal, which is an online team member portal only, which we switched over from a physical employee handbook to this portal that's interactive.
When did you switch to a...
That is our handbook. The handbook copy you're keeping.
When did you have a physical copy?
Honestly, we started the portal only like 2 years ago. So up until 2 years ago, we had a physical handbook.
Yeah. So the article you're referring to, it's called How to Succeed. It's Simple Ways to Succeed at TonaLaw. We send them that in an email link and access to the portal. How long before they start? The weekend before, usually?
Yeah, the weekend before.
So they'll sign in with their TonaLaw email. And the article's just a simple article. It says, take action, embrace the law firm culture as defined by our core values, focus on our systems and embrace the systems and follow the systems, participate in firm initiatives, and embracing the mindset of done is better than perfect. Also, we lay out the core values in terms of superior lawyering, emotionally intelligent communication, all of these different things that we've established that really are the foundation, right? So we send them a welcome email a few days before we start. And I think something else you said is important, where you express excitement that they're joining the firm, right? We also do that after they accept the offer, right?
Yeah.
Like we call them up and we're like, hey, actually when we're sending them the offer, right?
Yeah. I speak to them over the phone.
Yeah. And you say, hey, listen, we're going to be emailing you over an offer. We're excited that we're emailing it to you.
And coming from somebody who started before the welcome emails were initiated, it definitely in somebody who's starting at a new place would lessen like any anxieties or any nervousness that they have before stepping into this place.
Well, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's tough going into a new environment. Psychologically, it's tough. So for anybody that's doing it, we really try to put ourselves in their shoes. And where I think the mindset that people have to have, whether it's recruiting or onboarding, is you are selling something to somebody. You are selling the culture, the core values, the company to the now brand new employee that people will walk out of a job in the first day if they feel uncomfortable, right? Like, we want people comfortable. So, but again, expressing that enthusiasm, both at the point where we're about to send an offer and then expressing the enthusiasm when we send that email the weekend before they start, is also important. It's a mindset thing, right? If they don't hear from the person who's hiring them till the Monday morning they walk in, and then if somebody's in a bad mood or there's chaos breaking loose, you're setting it off on a bad foot. You're setting it up for failure instead of success. And I think over lunch you said, Alesha, like, the whole goal of onboarding properly is setting people up for success.
It does save up a lot of time on their first day if you're able to send them the admin paperwork. So
like the I-9, the emergency contact,
Right.
that type of stuff, tax
Right.
forms,
Yep.
whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the next step? They start that Monday. Did I miss anything as far as steps? Okay. And we'll do a quick synopsis at the end for anybody who's taking notes or whatever. But
Now we're on orientation day.
now, prior to the email, you've already created what this orientation day is going to look like? Or the day before, that Friday before as well, in addition to the email?
Yeah, the orientation day it's pretty simple, right? We're meeting with the new hire. We have an orientation presentation that we've prepared, and we take them out to lunch, and then they settle into their workspace. So it's a pretty easy day.
It is, but it's not, because it's chock full of overwhelming information, I would
A lot of
imagine, right?
information,
So
yeah.
let's boil it down. Let's start from the very beginning of an orientation Monday. What time do we start it?
8 a.m.
8 a.m. And why is that important?
to create structure.
Well, also, we open at 8, right? So the last thing I want is whoever's designated as their trainer, HR, my integrator engineer, or myself, if I'm involved, which I know I'm going to be stepping out of that role in the near future, to be rolling in at 8:15, 8:30, and this poor person sitting at their desk, nothing to do, can't get on the computer, doesn't know anybody. So, like, we have a hard start at 8 for everybody, for that new team member, right? And I think that's very important. So they come into the conference room and we have the slideshow ready, we have coffee ready and breakfast, right?
Yep, every Monday.
So tell us what that looks like.
So with the onboarding presentation, it consists of our core values. We go in
The
depth.
slideshow you're talking about.
Yeah, the presentation.
Okay. Right,
So
right.
the presentation consists of the core values. We go in depth into each one. The 3 silos for the firm.
Hold on, you're going too fast. Let's really dig deep on this.
Yeah.
We start with the core values because I think anybody that's listening to more than one episode of this podcast knows that is the foundation of this law firm is the
Right.
core values and the shared belief and adoption of the core values and alignment with the core values. That's the culture, right? So we start beginning, middle, and end with that analysis, and we put the core values up and we talk about each one.
Right.
Okay. So you said the silos we talk about?
Yep, the 3
Okay.
major silos of the firm.
Let's not go too fast over that. I can't tell you the number of people over the last 25 years that I've had this, 23 years that I've had this practice, that I would stop somebody after 6 months or 8 months and say, do you know what we do? And I'm mortified that they're like, oh, yeah, we do injury cases or we do car accidents. And I'm like, we do a lot more than that. But that was my fault, right? I take ownership of the fact that how are people supposed to know? Oh, well, it's on our website. Okay, you're going to go read 300 pages on the website over the weekend? You know, I'd like to think people might do a little preparation.
People
but
might. You
I
never
think
know.
it's incumbent upon the company to educate people about what they do if they want specific types of cases coming in their door, right? The last thing I want is somebody who's on the phone saying, oh, no, we don't do that when we actually do. And it's a growth process and a learning process, but you have systematized it, right? You put this beautiful PowerPoint together. It transitions to each slide and it shows each silo that we do, gives examples of the cases, and we talk about it, right? And now we send people the slides after.
We do. Yep.
Right?
The
Okay.
PDF version of the slide, so that way they have access to it whenever.
Right. And what's beautiful about that is they can refer back to it. Whether they do or not, they can't say, oh, we didn't take the time to do it.
Right.
So describe the silo slide a little bit further and what we have on there and in the context of our law firm.
Yeah. So for the silos, we have our three major ones: personal injury, no-fault collections, and business litigation. So luckily, in the previous situations, you've been able to go in depth of what each silo consists of.
So what I try to do also, and I think you might have heard me do it, is describe what the client's needs are, right? I've said, look, in personal injury, these people are hurt.
Yeah.
Some of them are desperate. We have to make sure that our number one priority is making these clients feel heard and seen. No fault collections. You're dealing with doctors who are excellent practitioners and they're getting screwed over by the insurance companies. So you have to be able to empathize with them before you get on the phone with them. And then the business litigation, you're dealing with people fighting over money. Most of the time it's breach of contract or contract clauses. And so it's about, again, empathizing, right? So we take a lot of time. I think your initial onboarding session was 3 hours
I think
long.
it was 4 hours.
And then we went to lunch,
Yeah.
right? So let's talk about the next step in that meeting, which is we call it the orientation meeting, but
Yeah.
what's the next step that we go
So
over?
after the core values, after the silos, we go over our specific training method
Why is that important?
because it sets them up for success.
But it also sets the expectation, right?
Right.
So let's say for a second, Jules is going to be learning tasks, right, to effectively complete her job,
Right.
right? So with Juliet, what's the training methodology called?
So the system is called the 3-3-3 method.
Okay. And give us a breakdown. What does the 3-3-3 training method look like?
So the trainer does one task while the trainee observes and takes notes. They do this 3 times.
And we videotape them?
Right.
And we allow questions
Yep.
after the entire process for that specific task is shown 3 times. So let's use a real world example. If you want to train somebody on intakes the way we do them, we have somebody who's fully trained and we pick the trainer ahead of time in terms of who we want to train for the position. That's established.
That's a whole other
That's
part.
established before somebody walks in the office.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother thing altogether is training trainers. But we have somebody, let's say a paralegal, training somebody on how to do intakes. They will observe 3 full intakes. Those intakes are fully recorded, transcribed, put in the portal, and the trainee is taking notes each of those 3 times and asking questions and having those questions asked. That's step 1 of the 3-3-3 method. That's the first 3. The trainer shows the task 3 times, start to finish.
Yep.
Okay. What's the next 3?
The next one is where the trainee does a task 3 times while the trainer is observing.
Correct. Taking notes, they don't guide them, they don't give input, they observe, and then they do kind of I call it an autopsy after the fact and say, okay, you did this, this, and this was perfect. This is a little bit different. We want to change this up a little bit, right? So they do, the trainee does does the same task 3 times under observation and gets feedback on it. And they don't ask questions till it's over because we want to see how well it was absorbed.
Right.
Now, what's the next 3?
So the last part is the trainee does the task alone 3 times, and then the trainer reviews their work.
Correct, and audits the work. So now it's been a total of 9 reps for 1 task. And we do this for every task that they have to, that's the foundational stuff anyway, for the position. over 90 days, right? So it might sound like a lot of overkill, but I will tell you that I have gotten a lot of feedback that people really appreciate all the hands-on training. Again, just drawing from real-world examples and having done it myself the wrong way in the past. I can't tell you a number of times people are like, there's your desk.
Yeah.
See you at lunch. And the poor person you're basically taking somebody, throwing him into the deep end of the pool. You got to picture onboarding like somebody standing on the side of a river. Again, we have a high-performing law firm and fast-paced. You're jumping into a moving river at 90 miles an hour, and it's not fair if you don't give people the tools to swim, right? You covered core values, telling them what we do, the training methodology and system that we use. What's the next step in the orientation meeting?
So this next step is truly managing their expectations, what they're going to be doing in their next 30, 60, 90 days. That section is just a general breakdown. It's not super in-depth the way it will be explained in the training checklist, but it's pretty much just a breakdown of what their specific role, it's a breakdown of their first 90 days for their specific role.
So, and we've also titled them, right? So day 1 to day 30 is learning.
Right.
Day 30 to day 60 is contribution, where they're contributing with their trainer and starting to participate. And then day 60 to 90 is ownership. Now we start to transition the job from the trainer to the trainee, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And a real world example of that, let's use the intake training for a second. And it really didn't apply with our last intake person that we hired because she came as a full bucket, full training.
She was ready.
After 2 weeks, she was like, I got this, I'm good. If you guys want to keep training me, you can, but how about you just let me do my thing? So, but more importantly, the person who was training her, Lauren, was like, no, she's good to go.
Yeah.
So, but real world example, I'll just give you what it would look like is, a 15-year paralegal who's done everything in my law firm, training somebody fresh on intakes, and they're experienced even, but we'll train them. The first 30 days is learning the people, learning the culture, learning the systems, everything from the computers we use to the software platforms and the different operational systems we have, right? Just learning. And that is, the trainer is imparting all this knowledge on the trainee. The 30 to 60 day, now there's give and take back and forth, contribution coming from the person who's training, right? And helping the trainer. So the trainer is using real world scenarios as they pop up. Let's take intakes. New call comes in. Lauren's now fielding all these intake calls to train the new person. In the next 30-day period, 30 to 60, that person's now contributing and doing intakes, right? And then day 90, now they're doing by the last 60 to 90 day, that 30-day period, that person is doing intakes on their own at that point. We're monitoring them, but they're doing them, and as long as there's no issues, they're kind of flying on their own. Yep. So I think, again, bringing you on was like a gift to me because it forced us to do things that I hadn't even thought about. And the magic of these systems that we put in place, both because of you, because I was afraid to have an egg on my face. I never had an HR person before. And then with you and what you've done to crystallize all of this stuff, it's been transformational. We haven't lost anybody in the first 90 days, 180 days. We've had zero turnover. And in the past, we have.
I was going to say, when was the last time you had someone leave within the first 90 days?
It's got to be
this year.
But it's got to be
like February.
It's got to be like February, I'd say, well before you started. And again, listen, you expect a certain fail rate, but man, it's been different since we put these systems in place and have had you here to full-time work these systems, watch these systems, build these systems, morph these systems. You've done unbelievable.
And I think part of that issue was the fact that, we do have such a high-performing team that we all move very fast. We all have such certain ways of doing things, like within our firm, that for some new people, it's either seems like it's too much. It seems very intimidating and daunting.
But that's on us.
You guys streamline it so easily now.
That's on us, though. If you drop somebody into this team with no onboarding, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Because it is daunting. It's very overwhelming. And again, the culture is not for everybody. I get it. The performance level that we require is not for everybody. But that being said, you can do so much with these systems that mitigate the risk that somebody's going to drop out.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of that turnover is expensive between the ads and even the 90-day training. If they fail in the first 90 days, you've already spent $10,000. Well, you know how much we spend on ads and recruitment in your time? I've spent probably $15,000 before somebody walks in the door on a position.
Mm-hmm.
Before I've even paid them a dime. I don't want that turnover. I want people succeeding. And so what you referred to was well before Alesha was here, Jules. And that's not fair. Like, it's different if you have like a nice little practice where you got 20 personal injury files and you got a couple of bills you can pay with it and you're getting a nice little salary. Not when you have a couple of 100 personal injury files, 14,000 no-fault files. That's overwhelming for people. You're coming into a team that is just, cranking the engine at 8:01 a.m. every day till 5 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the 30, 60, 90-day breakdown has been instrumental because it gives everybody kind of a sigh of relief. Our expectations are you just learn in the first 30 days. Take it easy on yourself. I don't expect you to do anything other than just learn, right? And then 60 days contribute, and then 90 days own it. All right, so the next thing that we do.
So continuing with the managing expectations, we do go over the job description, which I do think is important just to kind of bring it all together, or kind of not bring it all together, but bring them back to what made them apply to this job or this role. After that, we do a full breakdown of the checklist, which consists of all the tasks that are related to the firm here at TonaLaw.
That they're responsible for,
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We break it down even further into what platforms they'll be using, what tools they'll be using on a daily basis, just to make it easier for them to access this information.
Yeah, so what you're talking about, that training checklist, there's 2 tabs, right? First tab is, here's all the tasks you're going to end up mastering over the next 90 days, hopefully. And then the next tab is, here's all the tools you have to master. We have how many different software platforms that we use for different things. So you have the TonaLaw portal, you have the TonaLaw website, you have, case management for PI, case management for no fault. You have all these different resources. Then you have AAA for the arbitration stuff. So there's a reference point. We share that checklist with people. They can access it at any point during the day. Go into Google Drive, just access the checklist and all the tools. What was that website I got to use to log in for payroll? Oh, Paylocity, right? So I think what you've created is this awesome toolkit, again, geared towards both bringing down stress levels, setting expectations, managing expectations, and allowing people to exhale and go, oh man, not only do I know my job, I know where all the tools are at all times. I heard an overwhelming statistic, I don't have it in front of me, of the number of people and the stress level they have that they go to work every day and they're not clear on their jobs.
That would make me
I was
sick.
just going to say, you guys make, in your new onboarding system, you just lay everything out so that there's no surprises for people down the line. And you guys make sure that there's going to be no surprises, because in many other places, a newer team member will be doing something one way, and then it's like, oh, actually, we don't do it that way and we use this. But you guys kind of take out that whole part of starting at a new place where it's like there's no surprises. You know exactly where you need to go, what you need to do, and everything is laid out so clearly.
Yeah. It's important for this person for either their reporting manager or the person that is fully seasoned to be involved in creating that checklist. If you just have
because Tom wouldn't be able to create a whole checklist for a no-fault assistant.
No, I created a lot of the foundational systems that then I had key people who knew the roles way better than me create those systems. And one of the things that we do that I really think also works is because we use that portal versus a physical handbook. And we have search capacity like Google, where you just key into the search bar any single thing. It also pops up every system we have for personal injury cases and how we work PI cases, no fault cases, how we work them. And so what ends up happening, you have uniformity, both in file handling and results, right? And this is not an ad where I got to do a disclaimer of we can't guarantee results. What I do is by the systems that we have and adherence to those systems, what we can ensure is that the same level of lawyering gets done. And that's why we're able to recreate the same results over and over and over and over again in similar types of cases, right? Again, no guarantee because there's some element of creativity in lawyering and some cases, are stronger than others and it's always fact specific to the case. But the way they get worked is the same. Bills of particulars get done the same way, no matter what paralegal is handling them. And every other function of a file has the same type of thing set up for it. So I think that the fact that they have access to that training list is even important. First of all, we're paperless. So if somebody's like, well, I give them a list that's paper. Okay, well, in 2023, I'd rather them be able to pull it up on their phone. Yeah. Not that anybody wants to when they're home. But if somebody has a question and they're working hybrid that day, they can pull it up anywhere, their computer, their home, whatever. So it doesn't revolve around a book that's lost laying somewhere in an office. So, all right, so what do we do next after the training checklist and tool resources?
Yeah, so after the training checklist, we go over how we conduct their performance review. So I literally copy and paste a picture of the form that we use when we're conducting their review.
And again, that's important because in the first day, people now know our standards. Our form, if I think you're referring to the people analyzer form that we either use for a review or conversations or whatever it is, all ties to the core values. A simple equation, we tell them we're looking for alignment in these core values. And here's what the core values mean, and we repeat the core values again. We show them the performance reviews out of the gate. Again, we do performance reviews at regular intervals during the onboarding process, right? So
those are check-ins. We consider them check-ins, not reviews.
Okay, so check-ins, right? Yeah, they're interim check-ins or whatever we call them, but we do them every day the first week. Check-in or every other day, we're like, hey, how's it going? But we ask 5 questions. Is there anything you need from us? How was today from your standpoint? Here's how it was for our standpoint. It's that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Engaging in that dialogue for the first 5 days. Then we skip to the next Friday, I think. So at the end of week 2, then we go to week 4.
Yep.
Then we go to week 6, week 8, and then week 12. We do a 90-day review.
Yep.
Right? And we've been doing that for quite some time, to be honest with you. And I love it because everybody's on the same page. It keeps everybody on the same page. There's no surprises where you think you're doing a good job and we're looking like, oh, today might be your last day, that type of thing. There's no surprises, right? So those performance reviews in the first 90 days are really important, or interim performance reviews you're talking about, really? Yeah. Okay, so the next step, what's the next step? Oh, the copy of the weekly check-in schedule. We actually give it to them. That's funny.
Yeah,
okay.
which is definitely recommended. I don't know if a lot of law firms do this.
No, none do. None do. I mean, that's why we hear the horror stories we hear. When you hear about a law firm where a guy's throwing a laptop across an office or screaming in rage, really what that is it's an expression of frustration. But I don't get that way because I have all these systems in place, right?
No, you just shoot rubber bands.
Oh, stop it. Only at you. Only at you.
I'm kidding.
So, again, you can lead that way, but that sounds like a miserable way to live.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like for you, you're HR, right?
I am.
How's your stress level in your role?
Oh my God, I'm having a great time.
So, Alesha, since you started, what changes have you personally made to the process and to the systems?
Yeah, so this is my pride and joy, the orientation presentation. When I first started, you guys had a rough sketch
Yes,
of that.
very rough.
And I appreciate it so much and I loved it. But I guess for me, I just had a more prettier version in my head.
Well, you had a vision, right? And what did I say? I don't need to know, just do it, right? Like, I didn't care. I want you to own your role. And, you know, you're one of the people that hit the ground running. You came in like gangbusters. You were like, give me it, give me all of it. I'm good. Let me know when I got to go in. And I think in your first 90 days, you've seen everything that you would see in HR in 90 days because you had, you know, we had 25 people plus the team over in the Philippines of 15 people. And you were just like a dynamo. So that presentation, the way it is now, is like a work of art, and it's just been awesome. If anybody wants to see a copy of it, if they just contact us, we'll gladly email you a copy as a thank you for listening. So I want to talk about my contribution to the onboarding, which I never, ever take credit for anything. Lunches, right? One of the things we did with you, because I knew you were going to be part of the executive team day one. I knew how important HR, culture, all of these things were to me, was I committed to 2 weeks straight of lunches with you and Janira and parts of the team every day. So we ate every day for 2 weeks straight. We went to a different restaurant for about an hour to 2 hours, depending on where we ate, right?
Yeah.
And we've done that with every team member that started since you.
Yep.
Right? So tell me honest impression. What was your honest impression of that portion? Was it something you liked, you didn't like, you thought it was too much?
No, I personally loved it. I love being able to connect with my team in a more personal way too. And I think that's the easiest way of doing it.
It also gives opportunity to know the team members around you because our days from 8 to 5, everybody is so busy.
Yeah, you're basically not talking.
Yeah, it's hard to get to know people on a more personal level when you're just like giving a quick hi as you're running past their office. But that time really allows everybody to just know each other better.
Yeah, so it is an increased expense, right? For anybody that's listening to this, especially with the cost of living that's gone up with inflation. You know, a 3-person lunch, you're not getting out of it for less than $100 anytime you go. Yeah. Depending on where you go, and it could easily be $200. That being said, we started going out with, you know, it would be anywhere from the 3 of us to we would bring maybe people in PI, 5 people, 6 people. What I learned in the process is how fast the team bonded, how fast you started. By the time your 2 weeks was up, we were cracking jokes like you've been behind closed doors with me and Janira forever. And we just bonded tremendously fast. Yeah. And I would tell anybody that's listening to us, if you take one thing away, spend the first 2 weeks having lunch with a new team member every day. Now, we've grown to the point where I can't physically do it anymore and my waistline can't take it anymore.
Same.
So what I've done is, like, if I have somebody starting, I'll make sure I do one of those lunches, like with paralegals and legal assistants that start. But every day, they're going out with their team. Their trainer takes them out every day with somebody different from the team. So again, you're talking about $500. You're talking about anywhere from $500 investment just in the lunches to $1,500, depending on where you go to a fancy steakhouse or whatever. You're going to drop some money. 100% you must do it. You have to do it. If you don't think you do, you're missing out, because at the end of that 2-week period, you have somebody who's already part of the family. Yep. And again, I use the word family loosely because we're not a family. I tell everybody here, we're not a family. We're a business. Understand that. But they're in the fold in terms of part of the team. Yeah. By the time that 2 weeks is up, like, is there anybody you felt like you did not know well enough to crack a joke or put a smile on your face when you saw them and talked to them?
No, yeah. I felt really comfortable with everyone. And the fact that we still continue to do them, it makes it even easier for me to just be able to be comfortable around the team, even though I don't see them on a day-to-day basis or interact with them often.
Right.
And as high eyes,
Oh,
and we have
it's
a lot
very
of high
fun.
eyes in this office. You know, we're chatters. We like to talk.
Yeah.
So having
Well, I was
that
just gonna
hour
say-
is very nice.
So the funny thing is, something we also do during the onboarding period, now we're just kind of going through the rest of it, is we share everybody's disc that person's going to interact with, and we're studying their disc. And why it's important is everybody's got a different communication style, right? So one of the things that we do, because I realized, I said, oh man, these lunches are a lot for certain personalities, right? So if somebody's a high SC, I see the look on their face. And we had one attorney she's really a great attorney, and she high SC. And I could see, like, by day 4, she was getting kind of antsy. And I was like, look, you can tap out and say no more lunches, because I understand your social battery is not nearly as high as like Juliet or the high eyes in the office or Alesha. And they really appreciated that. So now you have another part of our HR system, the DISC, which is a non-negotiable ever, and it's supporting the success of the other leg of the HR system, which is the onboarding.
Yep.
So, you know, all in all, I mean, this system that we have now, it's never been this strong.
Foolproof.
Well, listen, don't say the word foolproof. Nothing's foolproof. But I will tell you that it has greatly increased our success rates in hiring and onboarding the right people. And it mitigates the risk. Because, you know, people will get through the interview process and even the wrong employee might slip through. It really mitigates that risk, because you're sitting across from that person for 2 weeks straight over lunch. And you'll start to know if there's red flags, and you'll keep a close eye. But that being said, the other parts of the system you've put in place, the risks just keep going down, and the odds of success keep going up. So again, I don't know if there's anything else. Would you add? Is there anything else you'd add to the whole onboarding topic?
I think that is a general breakdown of it. Pretty much, and just continue with that, right? It's not just the first day. This continues on for the first 90 days.
It continues on even after that, which
Right.
we're going to go into a whole nother thing about team building exercises and stuff like that. But I mean, I make it a point, if I'm sitting at my desk and I don't have a marketing lunch lined up, then I have a team lunch lined up. And basically 5 days a week, I'm going out somewhere with somebody, whether they're on the leadership team, the marketing team, personal injury, no fault, whatever it is, because it's the only way to connect with the people in the office in a way that you get to know them, you get to know what's important to them, right? And when you know what's important to people, then you know what motivates them, you know? So it's all about making the experience about the people that are the cause of the success of the business. Right? So when I say people first and that the team comes first in my world, our leadership team puts the team first. And we're going to be doing other parts to this Human Resources for Law Firms series, because I wish somebody would have done this for me. Like, this is you're an amazing resource, Alesha. And so to give this to people, hopefully they find the value in it.
And if anybody wants a copy of the onboarding slideshow that Alesha has created, feel free to email hr@TonaLaw.com and we will send you over a copy.
Yeah, anything that we cover in the podcast, if we have a system for it and you want to know more, just reach out to Jules at JIA@TonaLaw.com. And we'd be happy to help anybody out. That's why we're doing this podcast, and we'll make any resources available that we talk about. I'm all about providing value to everybody. So thank you for tuning into the Lead Counsel podcast. And you can find us wherever podcasts are distributed.
And just Google us. We're all over the place.
Google us and follow Alesha on LinkedIn. She's very accessible and she loves what she does. And she's the best at it. So if you want to know about HR, not from an employment law related standpoint where you listen to a lot of HR lawyers talk, but somebody who's doing HR from the business side, she does have compliance training in her background as well, which is always very nice because it's a field that's fraught with all kinds of issues you never think you're going to deal with. But anytime you're dealing with people, it's complex, right? So man, you navigate those waters masterfully. So reach out to Alesha. What's your LinkedIn handle?
It's just your name.
Is it? So we'll put a link to your handle for LinkedIn online, and people can connect with you on there.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Alesha.
thank you, Alesha.
Thank you for
You're the
having
best.
me.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.